everyone, and welcome back. This is Jenny from Polly's Paper Studio. Today we're going to celebrate fall with this cute bear image and gorgeous plaids and warm and welcoming colors. Now, this is a layered oval frame card, so it has lots of dimension. I'm also including some gorgeous flowers from Little Birdie Crafts and trims from Really Reasonable Ribbon. So stick with me and we will make this together. So I'm working with a 5 by 6.5 inch card base today. As always, I did finish the inside and add some patterned paper and a place to add a sentiment. And this is the focal image that I'm choosing to work with. This was a sticker on the 12 by 12 sticker sheet that was included in the collection pack. And so because I know that this guy is quite tall, I did choose specific dies to cut my layers, and you see how well that fits in. So he's going to be a really nice focal point. I added him to some thick white cardstock and then clipped him back out. It already had that white border, so I just followed along that. And then I added lots of sticky thumb foam spacers so that I could pop him up and give him some dimension. So these dies are from Cherryland Designs, and they are the nested ovals that are stitched. So I just chose the middle two, and then I pulled the collection paper out so that I could decide which I wanted the inside frame to be. And now we're building depth, and we're leaving that ring, the oval, and that's going to be the frame around the bear. So I decided that I wanted my wood grain on top, and I used the largest die for that. I just kind of eyeballed it because I know I'm going to be adding enough flowers and trims that it's not going to show that it's not exactly perfect. But once I had that clipped, I stacked it on top of the next layer. So this is just a non-contrasting pattern from the collection, and it has a wine color. It's dark, it's kind of a red, but it's a darker red. So I knew that that was going to coordinate well with the leaves that I chose. And all of these layers are cut to 4 3/4 by 6 1/4. And that way I'll have room for a cardstock border around the outside. And I also know that all of these layers will stack up and leave my frame centered perfectly. So once I had the larger one cut, I stacked the 2 pattern papers together and then used that to help me place the die for the next layer. And then I ran that through the die cutting machine. So now I have 2 ovals that are nested and will create a nice frame with lots of dimension. I put these up on spacers, and some places I did have to clip just a tad to make sure that that spacer wasn't going to show. And that's not a problem if you have good Teflon scissors that are non-stick. So I just clipped that double-sided adhesive so that I could work it all the way around. And I did make sure to have a portion here where it would be a large gap between the corners, so that way it's supported all the way around. And the same thing for this one. This one had a little bit more room because the die was smaller. So one of the sides I got perfectly, and then this one I did clip just a little. But now I know that once I get these adhered to each other, that frame is going to be right in the middle. I'm picking a wine color of cardstock to coordinate because I just pulled that from the pattern paper. And then I want my plaid to show in the middle, so I'm just going to adhere that, and you see how I get that nice cardstock border and then the white of the card base. So I'm just going to add these together as layers, and these first 2 layers I'm going to add with just a double-sided adhesive tape because I do want this to be flat on the card base, and I think it will be easier to add this now than when it's bulky with those other 2-dimensional layers. I think that cardstock coordinates very well. So now all I have to do is line up my next layers with the inside pattern paper, and that will keep everything square and keep my oval frame right in the center. There's my first layer. I did that off camera because the double-sided foam is not very forgiving, so if you don't get it in place just right the first time, it is a little hard to move around. I'm gonna do the next layer now and line that up to the smaller frame section. Got all those tape layers pulled now, and I'm going to just line up this section, hopefully get it on the first try. So we just got back from our fall camping trip and we had so much fun. We took our camper up to Lake Huron and we had a day trip for the apple orchard, and we went and picked apples and had cider and donuts. And it was just the most perfect fall day. Now it was a little bit chilly the rest of the time, but it was really nice just to get out and have some time to get away, and watched a lot of football because it was football weekend, and so we enjoyed that and some campfire. But now I'm ready to get into my fall projects, and so this one is going to be my first fall project video for you guys. Now here's that bear, and he's going to go right in the middle. And so he's got all these dots, and it's going to be quite dimensional, and I want to center him right in the middle. Love his little blue scarf. That's so sweet. I have prepared some flowers as I do. I pulled these leaves. This was the first thing I pulled out with this project this morning, and they're from Prima. They go with the Autumn Sunset collection, and I know that this is about as far away from Prima as you can get with the little cute bear and the plaid, but I really like the warm, rich colors of it, and even though they're leaves, they're still paper, so they're not shiny, and they just have a nice texture, and they're going to anchor these flowers, which are from Little Birdie Crafts. I've also added some die cut foliage here, just kind of brighten it up a little. And then here's some twine, baker's twine from Really Reasonable Ribbon. I know one of them is going at the bottom, and then one of them is going at the top. And now you can see how that really just fills in all that extra space so well. I've got a sentiment here, and I just stamped this with these little letter stamps. Now I really want to remember where I got this from. I think it was from Canvas Core. I worked for them for a few years back, and so it could be from them or it could be from Artsy, but they're just some regular standard kind of typeset font, and they're all capitals, so it works really well to fill in a sentiment because they kind of all take up the same amount of visual space. And what I like about this set too is that they clip together, so you can easily stamp out your sentiment and keep everything spaced perfectly. And I picked the walnut stain, my distress ink, for this just because I thought it went better than my regular black ink, which I would typically stamp a sentiment with, but this just seemed like it coordinated a little better. I also die cut that just with a stitched banner shape so that it would have a nice little dovetail there, and I shaped it a little so that it would have a little dimension. I just pulled that tail up slightly and then curve the middle, and it can go here, right? There's plenty of room for it. And then I've also die cut a banner shape, a Cherryland design, and that's just from the offcut from that plaid, so I didn't waste that at all. This will have to go on first, obviously, because it will stretch the whole width of the card, so I'll put that on now. Next I can add that sentiment. So let me know in the comments what fall projects you guys are working on. I usually go right from Halloween into Christmas, but this year I really wanted to take the time and celebrate this season before it's cold. So I plan a couple of tutorials for you guys coming up next week. But let me know what you guys are working on, because I get very inspired by your creativity as well. So now I've got that in place, I can add my flowers, being very careful not to cover any of those letters on my sentiment. And now that's in place. So here's the one for the top, and this is just a smaller version of what is down here, same twine and die cuts and everything. So I did add a couple of extra green leaves, and I thought that filled in that corner very nicely. And before I attach that, I'm gonna bring in a couple little silver sunflower charms, just because I think it makes it look nice here in the corner to add a little something sparkly. I tied those together. I'm just going to add them as a single piece rather than trying to measure them out separately. And that flower arrangement will disguise that glob of glue very nicely. I think that is in a good spot. Here's a bow that I tied from beautiful wrinkle ribbon from Really Reasonable Ribbon. This is a smaller bow than what I usually tie, and the purpose of that is because I just want to tuck it up underneath here and it will squish out only just a little bit. Those bigger flowers didn't leave much room for trims, but I do want to make sure to include a little bit. And to finish up the front of this card, I'm going to add a couple of sequins here. These are from Simon Says Stamp. This is their clear sequin mix. So these are 10 mil and 8 mil. I think it just adds a little something sparkly and nice to the corners here. And also because I have trouble leaving blank space. And that is all for my thankful fall greeting card. If you enjoyed this project, make sure you give me a thumbs up and leave me a comment. And if you're not already, I would love for you to subscribe. As always, I'm wishing you a happy and productive day, and I thank you so much for watching. Bye.